I'm nervous. Nervous.
Yeah, well, everybody can hear because we are live, and what we will be doing here on the stream while I'm waiting for YouTube to turn on to make sure that everything is working is to say hello. There it is. I can hear it over there, and so I've muted it. So here I am ready to do the welcome message. Hey, folks, what is up? It's Amelia. You can see that I actually got it together and invited a guest who I'm really excited to have here today. This is Adam Smith from Niche Website Builders. I had the pleasure of going on his podcast, their podcast, because it's not just Adam, a couple of weeks ago, and he agreed to come back and hang out with us. So welcome, Adam. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's this is my first ever live stream, so yeah, I don't know what to expect. I feel a little bit nervous, but it's all good. I'm happy to be here, and it was great with you to have you on the podcast. I was looking through the comments earlier, and people loved it. It was really great.
That is awesome. So I'm looking at you just a little bit, and we had like totally no technological troubles before we got started. But as soon as I hit the live stream button, it started to get a little pixelated. So okay. We may need to shut down some things on your side, because I don't know what happened as far as like getting all of the things. Like I told you to turn on YouTube and turn on all the things, and now I'm worried that I have sent you astray.
Hold on. Is it still the same?
Let's see. Why don't you tell us a little bit about you, and then we'll watch and see how much the audio and the video picks up.
Cool. Okay. So I'm based here in South Wales. I'm 34. It's good. Cool.
Yeah.
I'm 34. I run a company called Niche Website Builders with my co-founder Mark. Interesting fact about myself is that I've got a twin brother, and we're not identical, like the total opposite of each other. We don't look alike. In fact, you wouldn't even tell we were brothers, like if you put two photos side by side. So we don't look nothing alike, and we're the total opposite of personalities as well. So yeah, I've been building, monetizing, selling, flipping websites for a couple of years. Prior to that, I worked in the digital marketing space anyway. Worked for a couple of digital marketing agencies. Yeah, I guess anything specific you want to know?
No, I mostly just wanted you to chat for a minute so I could assess how the technology was keeping up, and it looks good. And whatever blip was happening looks all good now. I'm going to the chat, and I want to say hey and what's up to Eric Everman. Eric's looks like he just caught the beginning to say hey and is going to get the replay. So on the replay, Eric and anyone else who is catching the replay, please let us know that you were here. Also, as always, I would love to hear how your week went. It's been 2 weeks since we were here, so that means that I'm 2 weeks behind on how your sites are doing and what is going on with you. So if you're here live or on the replay, I want to know, guys. I see Keith. What is going on? Keith says that he uploaded his latest video and feels like an imposter because I didn't follow any of the advice that I gave. You know what? What do they say? Do as I say, not as I do.
Keith, I think you just shout out to Keith. I think your videos are great, by the way. I love your accent. I was just telling the media beforehand. I love
he was.
Videos.
He's a bit of a fanboy, it sounds like, for Keith's videos.
They're great. They're great. Yeah, I've just seen you come out of nowhere, and it's great.
Yeah. So my question is, Adam, are you lurking or are you leaving comments now on the videos?
I'm still lurking. I'm still a lurker.
Basically, Adam admits that he watches all of our videos, but doesn't put any comments in there to let us know that he was here.
I know. It's because, and I think it's because I'm used to like listening to podcasts, or I'm used to listening to the videos while I work. So like I don't really listen to music throughout the day, so I've got them on in the background. And then like usually just autoplay to the next video, or like I'll see something in the recommended bar and I'll click it, and then I'm just on to the next. So I've watched it, I've listened to it, but I don't really hang around on there, which is bad.
All right, this is a call out to the folks in the chat. Make sure that you hit the thumbs up button. I have no idea if that does anything for the YouTube, but it makes my heart feel a little warm and fuzzy to see more thumbs up. It might tell YouTube something, but that's just something that I will ask. I will also welcome to the stream. I see Margaret. Margaret, I would love to know how things are going for you and all of your projects. I also see Adrian, who was on vacation, I think, just like I was recently, and so I don't know if he's actually gotten anything done. There is Phil. Phil is one of I don't want to say favorite, because that would imply that there are some people I like more than others, because I wouldn't have favorites, but I really enjoy talking to Phil. And there's Will. Will is another guy, if you haven't seen on YouTube, he's pretty cool. Oh, Eric's back. Or Eric is still here. And there is Sabina. Sabina is Mom Van Up, which is, she's a really great lady who's just in the beginnings of her journey. And I actually have a question for you with her in mind on my list.
Okay.
Favorite works well. Of course it does. So one of the things that I'm seeing a lot of with folks who are starting new sites, especially beginners, is that the sites are not indexing well at all. And so you see these sites where these folks, it's their first site, and maybe they're working a second job or 2 jobs, and they have kids, and then they're able in the first 6 months to put up 20 or 30 articles, and then the articles are going nowhere. And one of the things that they are doing is going to Google Search Console and seeing that most of those articles are not indexing at all, or are not indexed. And then once they start manually indexing those articles, they start to see traffic. Do you have any thoughts or ideas or maybe tips for folks who are on that first site to help get some traction for those initial articles? Because it seems like what Google says is, to do interlinking, and then what they suggested that you even buy traffic to get that. I mean, what are you guys doing, if anything, to try and help new sites get launched?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I'll be honest, that most of the new sites that we launch at the moment are on expired domains, so they don't have this indexing issue. But I see there's a lot of talk out there right now of Google not indexing content, or it's showing up in Search Console as crawl but not indexed. Yeah. So there's a couple of things you can do. Like, one thing which we would pretty much always recommend people or our clients do is to buy either set up some social media profiles and link back to the website, or if you don't have the time or the inclination to run social media, is to buy a social media fortress package from Web20 Ranker. That's the provider we use.
Web20 what?
Web20ranker.com.
Web20 Ranker.
Yeah. And they'll basically go out and they'll set up like a ton of social media profiles for you, and they'll send you the login details. But more importantly, they're all pointing back to the website. And it's like, you've just got to try and show it to Google that you are a real website owner, or a real business in essence. And a real business would go out and set up social media accounts and that kind of stuff. Another little tip that we've noticed helping with sites that have indexing issues is to embed a YouTube video, typically at the bottom. And that seems to help. I don't know why or how, but maybe try embedding some videos. And then you mentioned it earlier, but internal linking, like internally linking, ideally from, if it makes sense contextually, from some of the pieces of content that are already indexed through to the pieces that are not. But sometimes you can't do that naturally. So we use a plugin, contextually related posts. It pulls in, and we set it to pull in 8 related posts at the bottom, and just helps with site structure and architecture and passing that power through. I think the problem is, on a new website, you just don't have a ton of crawl budget, and Google comes there and sees a couple of your posts and then just doesn't go any further, and you've just got to encourage them, make it as easy as possible. Maybe make the site structure a little bit flatter, not so many categories or anything like that. And yeah, I hope that's helpful. I don't know if you've used any of that, or have you tried anything like that, or
I'm not the guru on this stuff. I ask because I'm also curious what other folks are doing. I'm following the Social Fortress model, not buying the stuff. I just immediately, like my most recent site that we talked about for the podcast. Yeah. That's one of the first things I did before I posted any content, was created a profile on Pinterest, on Facebook, and on Twitter. Yeah. And then every post that I post goes out. I use if this, then that. So it just automatically farms out to the 3 profiles. But I didn't go out and set up like 20 more of them, because it seems like if we're doing is trying to create something that's natural, then hiring a service that creates like 20 or 30 or 50 profiles in one day, like that's not natural.
No, that's true.
I mean, it's not like a natural business would probably take on like Facebook and maybe a day and like create them over time. So it's like, the people you see like the, what is it, SEO Butler or these other micro workers were like, all right, I'm going to blast a whole bunch of traffic at it at one day. And like, that's not like a natural business will not get 20,000 links like in one day. So I just try to avoid stuff like that.
Yeah. I guess it's a good alternative if you don't have the aptitude to go and set them up yourself. Like a good fallback, maybe.
I mean, I think it's good to. I think the social stuff. I don't actually know. How about that? I don't actually know how important it is, but I do it, and I seem to be having a good experience this time around, and so I think maybe that was part of what was helpful. But me too. I'm also struggling with posts that aren't indexing, and so I'm in Google Search Console every day, just like seeing what's over there and like index.
Have you tried? I know Rank Math have an instant indexing feature now where they connect up to the API in Search Console. I've not tried it, but I've
not tried it.
Yeah, I don't know if that's something.
I don't know. I'll put that to the chat if anybody else has actually tried that. I try to use tools like minimally. I try to like do as little as possible.
Yeah.
Phil says that he thinks that posting daily helps a lot. And he said that he's never had indexing issues doing that. Sabina says that she added social buttons this week and loves the tip about YouTube. She says she's going to try and keep an eye on that. Keith wants to know, it says, care to share what percentage of the expired domains you started out on were toasted domains and didn't take off? Or were they all relative winners?
Yeah, so I think we've got to define what a winner is, essentially. But in all honesty, Keith, about 20% of them, they just act like fresh domains. You don't really get any kind of benefit for, like you would expect, working with an expired domain. So like 1 in 5 essentially is just acts like a fresh domain. You've got the sandbox period, and then it takes off slow after that. So you don't really see any benefit. But the 80% that do work, they tend to work well. But that well is like a big range. Anything from like, we did a case study recently where it's the best I've ever seen. And the guy's it was launched in December, end of December. I checked his analytics this week with Mark, and he's getting 250,000 page views now in 6 months. Like, I've genuinely never seen anything like it. But he has put about 450 articles on there in 6 months. So it was very aggressive.
That's really aggressive.
And then he 301 redirected in another 3 fairly powerful expired domains to an already crazy powerful domain to start with. The original domain was $17,000. Like, it was just a crazy domain to start with. So yeah, about 1 in 5 just act like a normal domain. But when that happens, you've just got to treat it like you would a normal domain. Just work on it, consistency, get out of the sandbox, and just keep going then.
So I can't remember what podcast I was listening to, but it was a good one. I was talking about expired domains and how expired the domain would be, like how long it had been since so there's when the domain is not renewed, right? So I think of expired is the person who owned it just didn't renew it, so it expired. And then it exists for a while, like it is like Google doesn't necessarily understand like the next day that domain is no longer there and that the hosting is canceled and that the pages aren't there. The podcast I was listening to was talking about the value of the domain before Google realizes that the domain has been expired and everything has fallen off and like updating it. And so do you think that those domains, like before Google updates, are more valuable or not? Or do you just not care? You're like, all right, an expired domain is an expired domain and it doesn't matter if Google has updated or not?
Yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, you'd pick one where it's still indexed, it's still getting traffic. Well, you would pick that assuming then that you were going to rebuild lots of the existing. Yeah, I agree with Keith. Age domain, expired domain, like people use the terms interchangeably. But if you found a domain like that, and you could rebuild the pages that were already indexed typically. And I say rebuild them. I don't mean just take the content from way back and paste it on there. I mean rewrite the articles or even purpose them. I was looking at one today that was in the food space, food and drink space, and like some of those posts are still indexed, and it was like a single recipe, for example, and we would repurpose that into like around above the 25 most amazing recipes of the same thing. So it's not taking the same post, but it's relevant. Like that's great because usually those pages will come back really, really quick. Like they're already ranking for certain keywords and they'll come back quick. But we've also had experience of sites that have been either offline for a long time, i.e. the owner took the website down, but then they still own the domain, and then they didn't renew it maybe 2 or 3 years later, or it was 301 redirected into another website. So effectively, it's been offline for a long time, and they come back just as quick. I mean, I've got one in my own personal portfolio now where it was the website was acquired by a big brand, and it was 301 redirected into their website, and they had a page all about how they bought this brand. So, and I think that happened in 2018. So it's been offline for like 3 years essentially, and all I did was put the homepage back on, and I didn't put any content on there, and it instantly started ranking for its brand name again. Like it's getting almost 300 visitors a month just with no content, just a homepage. So they can come back pretty quick, even if it's been offline for a while.
Let's see. Keith says, actually, RankMath has an add-on plugin for Google indexing called Instant Indexing for Google, because one of the comments was that RankMath only does Bing, but not Google. And so then apparently there's an extra add-on it just does the same thing. Will says, hey, Adam, can you give us a few of your favorite SEO website quick wins?
Yes, I can. And it depends. Well, first and foremost, I think if you're after quick wins, there's no better course and it's really cheap than Mushfik on the website Flip. He's a great guy. Like, I follow all his stuff. And
you're talking about Mushfik Sarkar?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, no, he's been making the circle lately on more of the YouTube stuff and the podcast.
His content is great. I mean, he puts out really detailed case studies, and he shares everything essentially. He doesn't hold back. And he's doing a public case study now where he's bought a site and all that kind of stuff. But he's got his quick wins database, which is essentially like an Airtable, which has like a ton of his quick wins in there, which I think is great. My quick wins, I did a podcast with Doug recently where I talked about how I bought a site, did some quick wins, and then flipped it like 38 or 39 days later. And I made like 18 grand on the flip. Crazy. I know. But that was basically, it was a content website. It was monetized primarily through display ads. And I increased the font size. So by increasing the font size, you allow the user has to scroll more on the page to allow more ad spots.
So what's your recommended font size then?
So I think 18 is okay. I mean, 18? You can go up a little bit bigger. I see some sites now, especially like food sites. I mean, the font is just crazy big, like too big, I think. But I think 18 to 20 is a good size.
Yeah, I went to check my default settings because I have GeneratePress and I use Astra, or have in the past, and the default, because I'd never checked it. And the default was 16 or 17. And so I recently put it up to 18, just to see if it actually made a difference.
I'm surprised you didn't. So one thing which we've been noticing recently, if we launch sites, because we use Astra as our base theme, if we launch sites with that default font size now usually we'll get an error in Search Console, almost within a couple of days, saying that some of the font is too small and unreadable.
Oh, interesting.
So by default now we change it to 18 as standard.
Yeah, I had never even thought to look at it. I mean, I did, but I wasn't fired up to go and actually check it because I just like to post content, right? Like the technical aspects of it usually just are, I'll get to it later. Like that'll be important later. But it's one of those things I did recently changed. Phil says that Mediavine is pushing people to increase their font at least to 17.
Yeah, well, at least I'd say like probably want to go bigger than that, really. So the site I bought had small font, so I increased the font size. I added more space between the paragraphs, so like the content was quite densely packed together.
Mm-hmm.
So again, all these exercises basically are there to increase the amount of ad spots. So I added more space between the paragraphs. I added more images, again, which adds more ad placement opportunities. I added additional content to the top 20 pages in the form of FAQs, and then I marked those up with FAQ schema as well. Mainly because I know those top 20 pages would already most probably be on page 1. And by adding the schema, not only do I make the article longer, but then I also activate the FAQ box that appears when you're on page 1. So you get a little bit more real estate space. Although literally this week, Google reduced the number of questions it shows from 3 to 2. So you get a little bit less now. And the other thing I did, which I think is important these days, is I added a table of contents on there. None of the posts have table of contents. And since Google's done their passage indexing update where they can index passages now, I think it's really important to have jump links, and they pull them through on the SERPs as well. And by basically just doing those couple of quick wins, I increased the RPM rate 25%. I was able to sell it then for a nice quick profit.
One of the things I've been hearing, and it may have been from Mediavine or AdThrive, I can't recall, but one of the things they were recommending and telling publishers to do is to get rid of the table of contents, because when the user hits the site, right, and then they hit the table of contents and like jump to where they want to go, they skip all the ads.
Yeah.
They skip all the ads. And so if you want to make money, especially if you're doing video ads, that people need to scroll so that the ad can play like stuck there at the bottom.
Yeah. Well, they said that to me, but I did some tests whether it made a difference if the table of contents was expanded or collapsed, and it didn't seem to make any difference. So we keep them collapsed by default. So someone has to come on there. Google can still read the code and still index the jump links, but the user has to open the table of contents before they jump down. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely a possibility of jumping past ads or going to the spot they want, I guess. I don't know.
I feel like the ads that earn you the most are usually the ones that load first, that are above the fold. Like generally the stuff that's at the top. So it's hard for me to understand how it could make that much of a difference, because like how many of those ads in at the footer actually get impressions? Like you really hold the person all the way down to the bottom. I mean, I guess if you have a site that's having like millions of page views, we're talking about like 1% makes a big difference in the overall scheme of things. But for a site that has a couple hundred users like a day or a month, like it's not going to be something that's a huge priority to work on.
No, I can see Sue has said ditching the table of contents. So don't ditch it. Definitely don't ditch it. I think it's really important. I wouldn't ditch it. I would just make sure that it's collapsed by default. Yeah.
Which plugin do you like to use? Did you say?
Lucky WP.
Lucky LUCKY.
Yeah.
I'm gonna. Because I think I'm using or have used Easy Table of Contents. I think that's what it's called.
There's tons. You got Table of Contents Plus and all kinds of like free. I think they all do the same thing.
They basically just make the thing and then
makes the thing look nice. Yeah.
All right. What I want to hear about is one of my favorite things to ask is I love fail stories, because I feel like everybody like on YouTube is always talking about their win stories and like, I won this and I made this and look how awesome this is. But very few people are leading with the YouTube video that's like a bomb, like boom, like I just screwed it up and messed it up. And I love fail stories because I feel like sometimes my online journey has been one big fail story. Like, oops.
I've got a great fail story.
Oh yeah, let's hear it. Hit me with it.
It's recent as well. So I talked about the website flip where I just made a ton of money in a short space of time. Well, not long after that, I bought another website just before the Amazon product review update came out. And I'm not even kidding. I owned it for maybe less than a week, and traffic's down like 70%. And I paid £28,000 for that, so it's probably about $35,000, I guess, converted. And I don't know what to do with it now because I'm busy running the agency and I haven't got time to go back and like figure out what happened. Because I bought it and I understood that it was heavy affiliate content, and like, but the content was good. Like, I didn't think the content was an issue. Being written by native English speakers, and I thought, okay, it's worth the risk. And in all honesty, I was only planning on holding it for a short period of time and again flipping it. But like about a week after I bought it, just it's down like 70%. So I've still got that. I think that's a big fail story. It's great talking about making money on flips, but yeah, I lose money on them sometimes too.
Yeah, well, that does happen a lot. It's a good reminder that this is still a fairly risky business, a really risky industry. Wow, I hit the wrong button. That was not the comment I wanted. Keith says you should keep it on ice. It might recover with the update. Yes, Kieran, what's going on? I feel like I haven't seen Kieran in a long time. This is checked into the live stream. Two great podcasters. Well, my podcast has been pretty quiet since February because I am working on a site, but this is a great opportunity for me to just ask you, now that you can't avoid me because you're here, how did that podcast turn out? Because I went and just looked at YouTube and I looked at the views and it looked like my interview with you had just over 600 views. And then because I'm competing with Chris on everything right now, Chris's episode is 2 weeks older and Chris isn't here. Chris is in the mountains somewhere hiking with his wife. So I can talk about him behind his back because we're doing this whole like we're calling it the I think the niche site cage fight. I think that's the official name that was proposed a couple weeks ago, which is starting in July.
When's that starting, by the way?
That's going to start in July. So month 0 is July. So we have some content coming out about it here eventually when we both get back from vacation. But
this is now I want to like a small budget, right?
Yep, $1,000. Like for the life of it. So we both have other sites, but it's going to be fun, I think. But
nice.
But how did it perform? Because I love going there and seeing that episode like having more views than other people's. So I don't know if there's any feedback that you've gotten or anything. I'm curious.
Yeah, well, I went through the comments today on YouTube. In all honesty, I don't have access to the podcast stats. Mark has that, so I have to ask him for it. So I don't know. I basically judge our podcast on YouTube views, even though like our podcast listens are way higher than our YouTube watches. So I don't know is the honest answer. We've done well on YouTube. I imagine it did well on our podcasts. But the comments seem great. Everyone loves you. I mean.
Oh well, I'm only happy to take that that feedback. Please feel free to just continue to lay it on me.
Lavish it on you. Yeah.
Well, for folks who don't know what I'm talking about, in the description, there's the link to both the podcast and to the YouTube video. I think we need like 30 or 40 views to get past Chris. So if you could do me the favor of going over there and watching that, I would love to beat Chris in everything. And Chris, if you catch this on the replay, I mean that in like the friendliest, like nicest way, my friend.
I mean, if you were to bribe me, I could accidentally delete Chris's video or something.
No. No, like I said, this is a friendly competition. But speaking of the cage fight, the niche site cage fight that is coming up, I am in the process of doing my niche research now. And so as part of our our assessing of who is winning, we're going to be looking at, traffic and earnings and also RPM. And so I think Chris is probably going to beat me because I know what his niche is on traffic. And so I'm not sure if I can catch him on traffic. He's good at this stuff. So I'm thinking that maybe focusing on getting a niche that has a really great RPM, because that's potentially one of the ways that I could catch him. So I could still beat him with a great RPM even if he has lots more traffic than me. So do you have any thoughts or tips for folks who are starting a site to try and get the best possible RPM from a site you're starting from scratch? So it's, partially topic. And then is there anything you can put into a post, like specific keywords? Like, I don't know. I think sometimes when my posts contain the words like cost or cheap or best, like even if it's not in the keyword, like sometimes those posts do better. You have any thoughts?
Yes, I do actually. So
well,
if I was, write this down. Write this down. So if I was looking for a niche with a high RPM,
that's not insurance or lawyers or all the ones that everybody.
No, wait, it is, but you come at it from a different angle. So we did a site recently for a customer that wanted to get into the legal space, and we're like, no, it's too, we don't have legal writers on our team, for example, and it's a YMYL niche. But then I went away and thought about it. I was like, we could probably come at this from a different angle. So the way that we approached it was it's in the automotive space, so like the legal automotive space, and we started thinking about, rather than targeting question or content specific to about legal issue, like a legal advice, we started thinking about fringe topics around what people would be searching for if they've just had a car crash. So it could be, how long does it take for a police report, for the police to file a report, or who's at fault at a left turn junction? Those types of questions, which typically the audience that's reading that would probably have been involved in some type of collision, but they're not specifically saying they are. They're looking for like who's at fault, or anything like those types of questions. So the way that we approached that was question driven. So we mined people also asked box on Google for literally thousands of questions, and then we manually filtered through them to get rid of all the ones which were we didn't think we could answer because they would require proper legal answers, and we were left with a good amount of question-based content that we could write there on the fringe. And that site now is getting about a $50 EMVP in Zoic, and it's on a fresh domain, and it took off really quick. Like, I was really surprised how quick it took off, and it just goes to show that, I think in that space especially, either people are afraid to get into it, or people do get into it, but they target the, keywords, and maybe they forget about this whole fringe side.
Phil's asking on our legal site, do you still put that disclaimer, this isn't intended as legal advice?
Yes, 100%. We didn't make the disclaimer. The client put the disclaimer on there. He actually worked with a lawyer to get that disclaimer created. But yeah, that was on there definitely.
Well, because up until about 3 minutes ago, I thought I had picked out my niche, right? And it was not legal, but now I'm sitting here listening to you talk. Of course, I have a legal background, but I have not created anything on any sites that is legal related. And now I'm hearing you. I'm like, nah, shoot.
I think you can do lots of good things as well. Like there was so you can come at it. So the other problem with niches like that is link building. Like, eventually you're gonna have to do some link building, and it's hard. So another way you can come at link building, especially in niches like this, is to build out like data driven resources. So for example, you could look at there was a great example. It wasn't in this space, but it was in the gun space. And it's a website called killedbypolice.net. It's not there anymore. It redirects to a gun website. But for a long time, they basically took publicly available data about fatal shootings in the US by state, and the data that was publicly available was horrible to search through. Like, it was really difficult, and they took it and they made it look really nice and really easy to get the data, and you could go database year by year. And then on the back end of that, then they use that to acquire tons and tons of links. And on the back end, they built an affiliate site all about gun scopes. But if you just went to the website, maybe you can look it up in way back. If you just go to the website, killedbypolice.net, and look it up, you would never tell it was an affiliate site. Like it's all about the stats about this. And then up in the top corner, you've got a little drop down box, and you click that, and then it says reviews, and you click it, and it almost opens up into a new like massive affiliate website. But you can do something similar. If you can find publicly available data, especially around statistics, if you can break it down by state, you can create some kind of database. And in like the legal space or the insurance space, there's all kinds of stats and data you have to think outside the box, but you could pull together for that.
Oh my God. I totally just, I thought I had my niche picked. I had my niche picked until 2 minutes ago. Oh crap. Oh, let's see. Keith saying, yeah, I haven't picked my niche yet, but I think that I have just decided to continue to do my research. Sue wants to know what kind of law I specialized in. I was a general practitioner focusing on cases that went to trial. And so we covered a lot of things. I did some criminal defense. I did some civil work, a lot of civil work and across a broad variety of categories. And none of which allows me to give anybody legal advice on YouTube. So if you're thinking about asking me for your site, I'm not that person. Phil's comment is curation is as powerful as creation sometimes. And knowing what Phil is working on, I can see where he's coming from. Keith's talking to D. D, by the way, welcome. I'm sorry that you missed the start time. I tried really hard to put it out there. Like I put it in the community post and then creating the thumbnail in advance so that folks could get here on time, but there's still the replay. Adam was talking about a $50 niche in road traffic accident. Yeah, now I'm like, because for me, the content would not be that difficult to create because most of it is like up here, but my concern is always, I don't want to give legal advice, right? I don't want to be in a position where, and that's what's always kind of steered me away from doing it on YouTube. Like there's some YouTubers on here that do the legal stuff, and I'm afraid to do it because I don't want to get dinged by the bar. I mean, it's not like I'm not practicing, but I still have duties with the bar as a non-practicing.
Yeah.
And so it's like trying to figure out that.
Yeah.
Let's see. Adrian says, now this is what I'm thinking outside the box. I know. I mean, this could apply though for folks on the sites that they already have, right? It's not just the sites like starting a new site. It could be a shoulder for a site that you're already working on, or you're thinking, okay, is there some sort of angle on a site that I already have that I could get a better RPM for? You say, all right, do I have, like, I'm looking out here at fence posts. Like, is there a way that I could get traffic in on fences that has a higher RPM? What do you do for a site where you say, okay, here's the RPM. Is there anything I can focus on to increase the value aside from putting in, I'm thinking mostly like types of topics, because you talked about video, you talked about, photos and the font size and all the things, but like, is there specific ways to adjust the type of content for a better RPM?
I don't know is the honest answer. It's not something that we do or actively, like if you brought a site to us and said, I want to create content that has a specifically high RPM. Like, I wouldn't know how to go about that unless, like, for example, it was a dog website and you specifically wanted content created about insurance. Then, I mean, we try and come at our keyword research from a low competition perspective, and a couple of different methods that we have, I think, are able to uncover at least some opportunity in most spaces. Typically, they're question-based content. So, I guess it's just trying to have a think about, in your space, is there something that's worth more than what you already have? Which almost always comes back to something that's around your money, your life. It's either to do with health or insurance or money or legal advice or anything or something like that. But most niches have some kind of aspect, I guess, or I would hope. Maybe they don't. I don't know. So no, the honest answer is I don't.
So people hear YMYL and they take that as automatically something to be like, no, I won't go into that. Like, just because something sounds like YML, do you think that's a reason not to work on a site in those areas?
I mean, mostly yes. I mean, we tend to stay away from them, if I'm being honest. Like, we don't do a lot in them, just because there's just that different. If you get it wrong, like if we come at that side from a different angle and we got it wrong, not only would we be writing content that maybe is not right. um, I mean, I don't know how it would work in Google, to be honest. Like, typically the sites that we make, they have a persona, like a made up persona behind them as well. So it's not even don't even have a real person on the about us page. Um, and I know that's important for for some of the eat signals with Google. So I personally don't do anything in that space, and we don't do a lot in the space for clients either.
So I'm getting a report from Emmanuel that the sound is bad. Folks in the chat, will you guys sound off and let me know if you can hear well, because we just want to make sure if it's something that I need to do on my end or if it's something that's going on with Emmanuel on his end. Because sometimes just depending on the strength of the internet where you are, that can impact how well you can actually hear it. So I just want to make sure that it is not us. Keith says it's okay for him. But anybody else who is listening, please let us know if you can hear and see and all the rest of that. So one of the things that I wanted to comment while I have people checking on the sound.
Let me move my microphone because maybe it's a bit far away. Hold on.
Or maybe you've fallen back away from the computer a little bit. While you're doing that, guys, I said this 2 weeks ago and I'll say it again. I'm getting lots of comments on my videos and DMs on Facebook from folks who are asking me. They've seen the month 5 Ezoic video, the month 5 update video on my Amiga site, and they're asking about how I got into Ezoic with a small site. Guys, if you are under a rock right now, Ezoic has dropped their page view the sessions requirements. They're using this, what they call the Access Now program. The link is in the description. That is how I did it. I didn't have anything, like there was no like special magic, nothing special. That it's like that is there for basically everybody now. If you can get approved for Ezoic, it doesn't matter how many sessions you have anymore. So just saying, there's no special magic. I mean, I would like to think there's special magic, but there is no special magic.
do you recommend people get their sites in there ASAP, Emilio? Or do you think they should get some traffic first? Like, what's your take on that?
Well, I try not to recommend that people do anything, right? I just tell people what I do and why. Yeah. And so if people want to do that stuff, they can. But the reason that I start early is because it guides the content that I create, because I want to make sure that the content I'm creating is as valuable as possible. And so what I find is that I'll do the keyword research on something, like guessing what I think the value is of the content and that it's competitive. And then, so I might map out 500 posts, but I try to write the first like 50 and get them up as quickly as possible, and then watch to see how valuable they are. And sometimes I'm right, and sometimes I'm extremely wrong. And so I will look at like this cluster of keywords and see that the RPM on those is like $5. Yeah. Why would I continue to go down that road versus I could go to this other cluster that I'm also working on where the RPM is $35? So I will abandon ship on that other one and work harder on the one that I know is valuable. But if I wait until 10,000 sessions, I will have lost a lot of that guidance. And so for me, that's valuable. But there's a lot of people who don't want to put ads on their site really early. They think it harms the user experience, right? Especially if you have a lot of ads, or maybe it sends negative signals to Google as far as like speed, so that will overall prevent the site from growing. Right? Like if your site from day one is a little slow, like will it overall like not gain the momentum that it needs in order to really hit those high marks? And there's definitely a balance. So that's why I don't tell people you must do this, because I don't know, it might hurt my site. Maybe my site would be doing much better if I did not put Ezoic on it in the first month. But I love screenshots. I want to show you, because I showed you, remember I showed you in the podcast, and you were like, how's it going? And so I want to show you. This is where the site is now.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, that's the users. And then guess what? Everybody, I'm so excited. Last 30 days, I hit 10,000 page views before month 6. So
this is why the whole massive plan that you did up front then kind of falls apart as you get into it then, right? Because I know you said you planned out the whole site, and then I was like, how's that going? You're like, it's not.
It's not.
No, but
It's
that's
not,
great
but
growth. That's
I'm
great
like
growth.
I'm really excited about it. And so, but people love to say, like, there's a colleague of mine who has a site that's doing really well, but he refuses to put ads on it. He wants to just wait to 50,000 and go straight to Mediavine, and that's totally his choice.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm looking at it like this has guided me so much on the way that.
Let me for people that are maybe a little bit worried about their site and how it looks and stuff. I've been doing a lot over the last couple of months of trying to buy really ugly, old looking websites to convert them. And it's a manual outreach process, but have a look at this website. It's called bear-tracker.com, as in the animal.
Bear-tracker.com.
Tracker. Yeah.
The bear tracker. This looks like something that was probably created in like the 90s. They said, yep, tracking since 1997.
Yeah, and it looks like crap, right?
I mean, it looks incredibly old.
Yes, but I'm just going to put it into SEMrush now. It gets, according to SEMrush, it's getting 90,000 visitors a month. So let's probably double that. So it's probably like 150 to 200,000 visitors a month. So like that's a great example, I think, of a site that, and there's tons of these out there. I mean, I can't get the owner of Bear Tracker to reply to me because I want to buy it, but
I don't see any ads on the site. I'm clicking through and they have all their content.
There's nothing there. Yeah.
There's no ads at all.
No.
Why have this site?
I think I've bought sites like this in the past, and they're passion projects. Like people do it as a passion, and the only problem is when you try and buy sites like that is people then try and value them based on their passion and the work they put into it, not what it's valued. Like I tried to buy one recently, and the guy wanted 100x, and I was like, dude, like, no, it's not. I'm an investor. Like it's not going to happen. But then on the flip side, I did buy one like that for 28x. So you can buy them like that, and you just got to spend a ton of time like fixing them up and stuff. Then
any tips for finding?
The point I was making is like, if sites like that can get 150, 200,000 visitors a month, like people worrying about what their site looks like, they don't have to worry about it.
Keith makes the point that if my friend will be mad if Mediavine rejects his site. Yeah, I don't think that they will, but I guess that's always possible, right? You do all this work and then your expectation is that you'll get approved by the ad network. I've had the experience of building up a site and being excited to apply for Mediavine and then got soundly rejected. It's like, boom. Will wants to know how many articles the Mega site has, and right now I think it has 204. And this is also my opportunity to be held accountable for myself. My goal is 50 articles this month. I'm going to fail. Like I'm looking at the date, and I'm also looking at what's happening the rest of this month. I might get to 30. Like it will be a miracle if I get to 30, and I'm going to just give myself permission to fail and be kind to myself and turn around and come back at it hard next month. But yeah, no, it didn't happen. A lot of stuff happened this month and it's still happening. It's taking me through the end of the month. So I'm bummed at myself, but
I'll be honest though, I'm so inspired and at awe that how you guys still write all of your own content. Like
I didn't write it all. I've outsourced 40 of those 204 articles.
Still though, I mean, you still wrote a big chunk of it. Like I couldn't think of anything worse than writing my own content. I did it on my first website, and as soon as I sold it, I promised myself that I would never do it again. Like I hate it. I hate it so much.
Let's see. Keith says, so much, Eric. The replay will worth it. Oh, he says, what did I miss? You missed it all. No, there's still plenty. Eric, if you have questions, Eric is a cool guy. He recently came onto YouTube. He's out in Sweden, and his handle was Income Grinders before, and he recently snuck in and changed it to his name. But he's another guy who I think of as us, because he's a mature gentleman like myself, mature lady, getting started in this sort of later in life. which I totally respect, because I think it's hard for us that were raised without, YouTube and without social media being like our best friend, to then go into a whole new industry and say, I'm gonna learn how to do this. So I respect that the heck out of you, Eric. I'll just say.
My dad still doesn't know what I do. Like, he still call me up and he's like, "Oh, I've given Dave your number. He needs a website for his building company." I'm like, I don't do that, Dad. Like, that's I don't do that. I don't do that. Oh, you do websites? So like, yeah, I don't do that, Dad.
Eric wants to know, did we talk expired domains? And we did. You'll have to catch that on the replay. Sue says, I'm a writing machine, and Chris will not argue with you about that. And that's actually one of the biggest reasons why he demanded that we put a cap on content production. We negotiated the number of posts in our initial like battle negotiations, because the cap was important to him. And he came back to me recently again, trying to reduce it even further. And I basically said no. He's just gonna have to deal. Sabina says she won't hit her 30,000 word goal this month. I'll try again next week. Yep, it happens. But I've been watching you on the Mega spreadsheet, which, folks, if you want to get into the group, we're setting up July as we speak. The link, I think, is in the description. It's free, and there's no you just go in there, you do your work. That's all. But oh yeah, Sabina, it's cool. You'll get there. Steve says, and it's nice to see Steve on the stream. Yes, I feel free to heap praise upon me. I will pat myself on the back no matter. But he said, but the site he started in January has only 1,200 page views in the last 30 days. I will still say, though, that I think that at 6 months, having a site that's getting over 1,000 page views is still something to be proud of. I think that having a site that's got 10K at 6 months is results not typical.
Yeah.
I would say that. And so I don't think people should feel bad or anything else that their site isn't there. I've just been working really hard, and that type of effort is not results typical at all. So Keith wants to know, it says, where's your go-to marketplace for acquiring new sites? Or do you just avoid marketplaces and do direct outreach, like cold outreach to webmasters?
Yeah, I don't typically tend to use many marketplaces, mainly because the multiples are just going sky high on them. I mean, Empire Flippers now, it's not uncommon to see sites on there with like 45, even 50x multiples. And I just don't think that's right. I mean, I like those kind of multiples when I'm selling. I don't like those kind of multiples when I'm buying. So usually I've got a network now which I can reach out to. In 2020, I built a ton of sites on expired domains. Some of those are maturing now and probably get ready to sell some of those. So I built a load last year rather than buy. But Facebook groups mainly. I mean, there's a ton of rubbish on there, but you can pick up some good ones. And then the other way is to do manual outreach to the likes of beartracker.com and find sites like that. I mean, it's a ton of work and it's really time consuming, but you can strike gold sometimes with those kinds of sites.
So is this for you personally, or is this for the business?
Personally, yeah.
So you maintain a personal portfolio separate and apart from niche website builders?
Yes.
How much can you talk about that? How big is it, and how are you like you said you hate writing, so clearly you are outsourcing.
Well, yeah, we've got a team, right? So we built the company initially to service mine and Mark's portfolio of websites. That was the whole reason why we built the team initially, and then quickly we realized that other people could probably do the service. And I'm not ashamed to say the agency is like way bigger than our portfolios now in terms of revenue and stuff. But I mean, that's what I enjoy doing. I love building sites. I love testing stuff. I love the thrill of buying a site and flipping it. I mean, the money's good too, but it's not so much about the money now. It's more about just the thrill of doing it and testing. I mean, things change all the time, and I'm forever testing different strategies and how different things work. So yeah, I guess I started with my own portfolio, still got it, but the agency is now bigger.
Sue asks, if you were approaching an owner of a site like Bear Tracker that's not making any money, how do you put a value to it? Like, how would you know what to offer them?
I'd ask them what they're interested in first. I mean, they might come back with a low offer, like a low number. But then when they come back,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, but then sometimes they come back with crazy offers, and then you've got to negotiate and you've got to put a number on it, and then you've got to get access to analytics, and then try and just base it off page views, like what I think it could get in terms of like a low ball RPM rate, and then just times that by the page views it's getting, and then use that as like I usually go in with a lower multiple, but I would explain all of the steps I've used to get there. Excuse me. I pulled together a spreadsheet and I'd say, well, this is how much traffic you've got over the last 30 days. This is how much I think it can make. I think a fair multiple, because I've got to do X, Y, Z. I've got to redesign the site. It's not in WordPress. I've got to move it all over to WordPress, and I've got to pay someone to do all that kind of stuff. And therefore, I think I should be paying, a 20X multiple, which is X. And I'll be honest, like these passion projects, which are not monetized, 9 times out of 10, they just say get lost, like because they put so much time and effort into it. It's not about the money for them, but sometimes it is. Interestingly, I've been doing a lot of outreach lately for trying to buy a Project 24 websites, because I think I always see them doing really well with really low domain ranking. Mm-hmm. And obviously part of our service as well is that we offer is link building. Mm-hmm. So I think I've been trying to buy up some of those sites and then just do link building and maybe add a little bit more content. But again, that's manual outreach. I'm trying to scrape Google for sites that have the Acabado theme.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Oh, Sabita says that she started a site this year. She said, I did something really wrong and I'm still figuring it out. I really think it's site structure. I did not understand niche and topics when I did my keyword research. And I would tell you that is something I absolutely went through. And I think a lot of people do when they first get started. And I don't think it's a sign that you should quit. I think it's a sign that you had to learn just like all of us did. And then you'll either figure this site out or your next site will take all of those learning moments, and then that's when you'll see the fruits of it. So it might not be in this site. It might be like 2 or 3 sites from now, but I don't want you to think that this is a sign that you should stop. That's my point. Steve says that he recently added Bing Webmaster Tools to his websites. They have some cool tools. I make sure that I have a sitemap over in Bing Webmaster Tools, and then I occasionally check over there for keywords, right? Like whatever keywords are ranking over there, or look for keywords I should write about, and then I basically ignore it. Keith says, Adam, can you quickly share the story of how yourself and Mark started the business together? Now, this is interesting because as I understand it, you and Mark don't live in the same place and are rarely have ever been together, like in the same space. And so you have a business that is of undefined at this moment size with someone that you basically, had you ever met in person before?
No. So I was on a podcast talking about how I'd sold one of my sites. This was going back in the end of 2019. And while I was on there, I was ranting, to be honest, and venting about how I couldn't find reliable writers and I couldn't find reliable VAs, and you find a good one and then they disappear and all that kind of stuff. And Mark heard it, and then he sent me a random Facebook message, and I was like, who's this? And he said, I'm going to come down. So Mark lives in Reading, which is about 3 hours away. And he said, and in the UK, I mean, 3 hours in the US is nothing, but in the UK, it's the other side of the country.
The other side of the world, basically. Yeah. You better pack some snacks. You're going to be in the car for a long time.
Yeah. So he said, I'll come down and see you for the day. I was like, okay. So he came down and he was having the same problems. And we're like, between the two of us, like our portfolios were big enough. We're like, should we just build a team and share it? Like, should we hire some writers, and should we get some VAs to do the uploading for us and stuff? We're like, yeah, this is great. So Mark went back to Reading and we hatched this plan, and we're like, okay, how are we going to do it? And he came back down. So we met halfway then. So this was the second time. So we could sign some paperwork and set up the company. And very quickly then we realized, like, well, if we need this, other people would need this. So we launched it as a service, and the rest is history. It took off. But we met for a third time when we were ordering laptops for the staff, and it went to Mark's house, not my house, by mistake, because all of the writers are local to me. They all live like within 20, 30 miles of me. So me and Mark then had to drive an hour and a half and meet each other in the middle, and we met in a service station. And it was a bit like seedy. It was late in the night, and like handed me the laptops. I was like, "Cheers, mate! I've got to go now. It's really late." And I left. And then only recently, like a couple of weeks back, we met up again for the fourth time. So we've only ever met each other in person 4 times, and the company's now approaching like 100 staff. So it's a fairly big operation now. Yeah, it's my dad. Like again, my dad, he just can't believe that we've built something like this without ever meeting people. Like we've not met the majority of our team. We don't have an office. Everyone works from home. It's crazy.
That is crazy, but cool. Like if
Yeah,
that's your
cool.
thing, like
Yeah.
I hear 100 employees and I start to get anxious, like itchy, like, you know,
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time outsourcing because I don't want to supervise people. I've had employees, I've worked with employees and staff, and I probably will never have a big operation like that because I just want it to be as simple as possible. But I totally respect that you guys have created something really cool.
I think there's a sweet spot there. There's the initial part where you are managing everyone directly, and it's really hard and stressful. And then you go through the transition phase where you get like a layer of management in there, and that's even harder because you've still got to manage everyone while training them up. And then you move in. I mean, it's easier now. It's definitely not easy, but it's easier because lots of things are delegated. But yeah, that first, I'd say the first 10 employees are probably the hardest because you're trying to do everything. You are the HR person, you are the manager, you're hands-on in the day-to-day, you're doing the client calls, you're just doing everything. But yeah, it's been great. I've enjoyed it.
Eric asks, do you know of any free or cheap API for checking domain metrics as well as domain availability?
Yeah, it's not free, but it's cheap. It's Spamzilla, I think it's .com or .io, and it's basically like a filtering tool. It connects up to most of the domain registrars, and you can filter by all kinds of metrics: UR, DR, trust flow, number of links. You can filter by everything basically.
Awesome. Well, I see it is the top of the hour. And folks, I just wanted to thank everybody so much for being here. It's been really fun. Adam, this is your chance. If you would love to let people know anything more about you or your company or your business, feel free to fire away. I put the link to Niche Website Builders in the description of this video, so people catching on the replay will know how to find you. But if you want to just give us a quick recap of what it is that you guys actually do, feel free.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll break it down into 3 simple things that we do. One is content creation, and we do the full end to end. So we'll do the keyword research, create the content in house with our writers, and then we'll format it and we'll upload it to your website. We do link building, where we do two different methods of link building. One is the authority hacker shop and skyscraper approach, and then the other one is just the standard guest post and niche edit that most other people do. And then the last service that we do is the done for you service, where we build your website, and we can either build it on a fresh domain or on an expired domain, and we source those as well. So typically we sell the expired domain with a website build with 100,000 words as a package. And I guess that's it in a nutshell. I mean, people can feel free to check out our podcast where we talk about this kind of stuff. Head on over to the website. I mean, even shoot me an email. Like my email address is team@nichewebsite.builders. I'll answer any questions. Just being helpful, if anything.
Well, I really appreciate that you came here, and we talked about this before the stream, but it's just really nice to actually talk to people and then to like for this community to actually see people as people rather than just their brands or their business. So I really appreciate that you just came on here to hang out with us, and it's been really enjoyable for me. I can't speak for the chat.
For me. No, thanks for having me. It's been great. You've popped my live stream cherry, and it wasn't as scary as I thought.
You know what? I have done some streams with a lot of creators on YouTube who had never done live streaming. And so coming on the stream was their first time doing it. And every one of them has said the same thing, which is it's not as bad as I thought, or it's not as difficult or not as stressful as I thought. And it's actually pretty enjoyable. Like they go off and do them on their own and probably better than me. And it's fun to see them out in the world streaming, because I think live streams are great.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, everybody, we will be back. Well, I will be back next week, normal time on Wednesday at 10 a.m. Los Angeles. And I don't have a guest plan, but hopefully Chris and I will be teasing a bit more the niche site cage fight. And so hopefully we'll have some more details for folks between now and then. Hopefully I will have picked a niche by then. Thank you, Adam, for totally destroying all the work I did already up to this point. I'm basically starting.
Yeah, but I'm gonna help you win though, so you know it's all good.
I will use. I'm gonna need it all. Chris is really sharp and capable, and so I feel like I'm gonna have to bring my A game to this one.
I'm surprised Chris wants to put a cap on things. When I did the interview with him, he came across as a beast of a writer as well. Like he was doing at least 1 or 2 pieces a day. Like.
He is a beast, but he has some other projects. So the key was we didn't want to harm our other projects, right? Because we both have other projects that are in progress. And so, and like my Mega site, I'm only starting another site with the goal of keeping it alive and on track. And so I have to make that happen because I'm not going to get distracted from it. And he's got another site that is doing really well right now. So the goal was to do this new site and the cage fight, but without destroying what we've already built.
Makes sense.
Yeah, one of these days, though, we might actually just go like no holds barred.
Can you imagine if the pair of you decided to team up to do a website and just went all in? Oh my God.
Keith, we're not sharing.
I would be an investor in that. Like I would put money in for it.
You know, I think we'll see how it goes. We're starting with a podcast as part of this. So like a joint podcast because that's where this started, right? Rather than the battle, as we started with a podcast because Chris wanted to start a podcast. And I think it's more fun to talk to people than do one on my own. So that's part of what we'll start rolling out in July is the first episodes for the podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. We'll see how the podcast goes. If we don't like kill each other and then, you know, like partnerships, maybe that could happen. I don't know. But yeah, it would be pretty wild. It would be wild. Awesome. Well, Keith, I'm not sharing the article cap. Not yet. I think that at this point it's still in negotiations, but remember, it's not going to be crazy. It'll be more of like more like realistic. So if folks wanted to follow along and like create the same amount of content each month, then it should be possible. But you know, the no holds barred site like battle, that would be pretty wild. Like no caps and only content that you could create. Look out, man, look out. All right, Adam. Thank you so much, everyone. We will see you next week. All right, take care.
Thanks, everyone.